Yes, all right, this is so cool. We're live on Facebook. What's happening? How are you guys doing today? I'm in Onion Creek right now, right at the Onion Slaughter Creek split. And how we're recording this is with some new technology. There's this phone that allows me to move the camera around, and you can see me in different frames and go wide and all that sort of stuff. But we'll sit with right about here. Hopefully the audio isn't too loud. And I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that I've been talking about and test out this new equipment. I'm going to turn the audio down just slightly. And it's controlled all through my phone. But I wanted to talk about this thing that happens over social media all the time, you know, which is a great outlet. It's an amazing thing. It's not going anywhere. But we get caught up with other people's lives. We get caught up with other people's causes, with opinions, with things so far outside of ourselves, it then negates part of the best part about being social, you know, since this is social media, which is connection, which is interacting with people, all right? Now, once again, the reason why I do these is to just unify the different people that I know. There's a lot of people who are on my personal Facebook that I know through the drug and alcohol recovery lifestyle, through the dating and relationship coaching that I've been doing for the last 11 years now. And then also people that I know through the martial arts community and just other people, you know, friends and so on, that just connect in different ways. I want to involve as many people and create a dialogue with as many people that I can with all the people and things that I love to do. So that's really why I'm doing these things, and I'll put some links down below, kind of where to follow different stuff. If you're a man looking for men's development, there's the Austin Men's Development. We also have a podcast, The Daily Awesome. I'll send links to all of that. And then also if you're a guy that's looking for dating or sexual help, all that stuff. We have a running dialogue for the past 7 years. We've had a course that's nonstop for since 2009, that is just guys talking about literally everything you could imagine. It's a living, breathing group about dating, sex, and relationships, and we have answers for you. So that being said, man, if you have a question, most likely either myself or my groups have an answer for you. But what I want to get into is this topic. Whose life are you living with? Man, and it's a super important thing, because if we value our lives and we know what that value is, that means our expression, who we are, maybe that's our career, maybe that's our purpose, maybe that's our love life, our sex life, maybe that's how people see us. Whose life are we living with? Because what we're seeing and what we value, especially in this world of social media, is that we do not value that. We value causes, we value labels, we value memes, we value shock, we value how many likes, we value all this stuff that everybody complains about, yet we never get into what the solution is. And the solution is something that I absolutely live for and that I teach and that I work with, in my communities. That's so freaking important. If we're not doing that, what are we doing? And I just want to put this in perspective. Years ago, just being in the dating and seduction industry myself, I've always gotten a lot of flack or a lot of criticism given to me by people that are in the women's movement. And I have no problem with that. You know, I have no problem with people having whatever beliefs you have. And I encourage you to have whatever beliefs you have. But I thought it was interesting when some of my friends who were really into things like some extremist feminism or hardcore feminism stopped talking to me and stopped interacting with me just because of certain viewpoints that I had with dating and relationships. And these were people that I had experiences with. And to put this in perspective, when I was 27 years old, I was about to be a father. Didn't know what to do. At the time, you know, I've been in and out of recovery my whole life. And at the time, I was in a relapse mode and I was using pretty hardcore. I didn't know what to do, you know, so I decided to sober up. Everything happened everything like really crazy happened when I started to sober up. All my friends dropped me. Like the band I was in, the people that I hung out with, they all pretty much left me. And there were, of course, a few that stuck around, but that's kind of one of those common things when you stop, you know, drinking, using drugs, and all the different sort of lifestyle things that I had, even though I really wanted those people to still be around. And so what I did is I saved up some money, and I decided to drive around the country and ask people about American culture. I know this is a long story, but there's a true point to it. And I want to get to it even to what has unfolded today in my life. And I drove around the country asking people these questions. I said, what is American culture? What do you like about it? What do you dislike? How would you change the things that you dislike? Where do you see us in 50 years, and what gives you hope? I set out to interview some of the people that I really respected, Michio Kaku, Howard Zinn, Immortal Technique, all these different guys. But in the mix of that, I also found other people that I maybe wasn't looking for. People who were, that might be racist, that might have different political beliefs than mine, and just all sorts of stuff. And what was the greatest learning experience for me was that, number one, I was disappointed by a lot of the people that I sought out. Why? Because they couldn't get off their topic. They couldn't get off whatever it was, whatever human rights, whatever Israel and Palestine. They couldn't have a conversation about their lives with me, but they could have a conversation about a cause, even if I agreed with that cause. And I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for the real story of their lives and why they believed that. But one of the most interesting things is then there were people who had ideas that were totally different than mine, and some people who had ideas that aligned with mine, that welcomed me in their home. That all we did was we did the interview, we talked about whatever, but they then, wanted to know about my life. We shared an experience, we ate dinner. And these were people that if I held to my beliefs, I would never talk to. Yet I was able to break bread with them, able to connect with them. And I then had a choice to say, hey, I don't want to go to your pro-life rally, or I don't want to go to your pro-choice rally, or I'm not interested in this cause or that cause, but man, you're a great person. And from that point on, and that was literally the biggest lesson that I got from it, from that point on, I realized how toxic judgment can be. Now let's put things in perspective. Judgment, can be great. We use it as a great advantage to being a human being, and it comes with, our biology and all that sort of stuff, and judgment is great. But when we get caught up in judgment to define ourselves, when we get caught up in judgment to define how we think or what we view, to give us our identity of self, to give us those things that we worth, the life, whose life are you living with, that's when we fuck up. And that's where so many people fuck up. Man, I can't believe it, because then we fast forward a few more years, and some of my friends, there's a girl who's a dating coach, which any woman who's a dating coach for men and focuses on that, there's generally something wrong with them. I'm not saying it has to be that way, but they got into all this feminist stuff, and they started attacking me for no reason. And I said, hey, look, I have had points where women have held knives to me, they've tried to stab me, they've destroyed all my stuff. And she was like, sure, that's never happened, sure, that's never happened. And I said, hey, look, it has happened, but what I'm trying to do is say, like, hey, I like you, we're friends. Like, we don't need to divide and all this sort of, you don't have to hate me and negate all the experiences that we've had because of this new thing that you're into. Because, in all honesty, you haven't looked at the things which you feel bad about, or that have harmed you in those ways. Man, I've had harm done to me, and I don't blame a whole group of people for it. I blame the individuals and make choices out of it. That all being said, what do we see today with our social media? What do we see today with the different ways that people emblem themselves? And one of the saddest things about the men's development community is there's so much hatred now towards women. It's always been there, but now it's almost seemed like it's okay. Now it's like, hey, yeah, there's nothing wrong. We've been screwed. The laws are against us, or whatever, they say. And here's the truth, guys. I've actually lived that stuff. I have actually had those things happen to me. I have had Nobody in life is somebody who does not deserve at some point in their life a good ass kicking. And nobody in life is beyond a point in their life where they're not going to be a victim. They're not going to get stolen from. They're not going to get lied to. They're not going to get fucked over by people that they trust, people that they love. They're not going to get screwed over in business. But what I know about success, and what I even know about mental sanity, just being a coach that has dealt with this over and over again, is that if you tell that story and you blame and you get pissed off, whether it is the men's movement, whether it is Black Lives Matter, whether it is feminism, whether it is whatever, the pro-Trump supporter, the anti-Trump supporter, the Greenpeace supporter, I want to drive an SUV and go crazy and waste stuff, sort of group. Man, do you realize that none of that is you? None of that is you. And if you choose your friends by that, if you choose your expression by that, what have you now done to the essence of you, your expression, your life, your spirituality, your views, your friendships, all these things which hold value, your relationships, your greatest loves and your memories? You have now taken a simple urge or a simple concept that you might feel really intensely about now, and you just blew your load to cut people out. Rather than using your personal expression, connection, sense of who you are, man, you've suppressed all of that just to be right, just to listen to your pain. Anytime I listen to an excuse for not being my best self, what we talked about yesterday, I never get success. Anytime I listen to that excuse that keeps me from taking 100% responsibility on me, on myself, I can never get to my better self. I get trapped in the blame. I don't care if I'm right. I don't care if I'm wrong. I've been a victim. I've also been somebody who's been on the other side of that. I've been somebody who's had a lot of luck, and I've been somebody who's had a lot of bad luck. But guess what the constant is? Guess what gets me better? Is me focusing on my life in the ways where I can, man, be my expression of self. And there's one thing that I know is my expression changes. Let's fast forward to today. And this is an interesting thing. Somebody hit me up that I haven't talked to in probably 6 years, maybe 7. They contacted me today, and I was really happy to hear them. And it was somebody from another country that when I used to travel, I would visit there. Now that country has its own demographic, its own culture, its own people. And what I could not believe when I landed in this country and stayed at this home where these people had put me up, how unbelievably racist they were. It was like crazy shit. Like it was people that you hear this, you would never want to talk to them, but I stayed with them. I had to stay with them. That was where I landed. What I realized is a lot of people in this country shared these views. A lot of people in this country shared, that they didn't like homosexuality, they didn't like people from certain ethnic groups, and they were really vocal about it. I didn't participate in that, but I stayed there for months actually, and became really good friends with different people in that country and so on, and we had good times. And you know what? I didn't argue with them about their beliefs about, different ethnic groups, different races of people, or their views on homosexuality. I didn't care because I was in that experience. And when I talked to that person today, none of that stuff came up. Why? Because number one, I have a life that I can talk about that doesn't have to rock the boat all the time. And it also doesn't harm their world or whatever, or if it is harming their world, that's none of my business. It isn't my job to change everybody's mind, but it is my job to actually know the person in front of me. And like I had posted yesterday, man, whose war are you fighting? Because if you are fighting a war, number one, you better have a good reason for that, personally. Number two is if you don't know the person that you're fighting, if you're fighting against a concept, if you're fighting against a group of people, if you're fighting against a sex but not an individual, then man, you're probably not fighting your war. You're probably fighting a fear that you have unresolved or some hurt or some pain. And don't get me wrong, you deserve that. I've been hurt too, and I'll be hurt again, and I'll be saying the same things and need to listen to my own advice here. But you're probably fighting against some pain that is then represented by something 1,000 miles away that you don't have to touch, feel, or have in your face. And the only time you do it is when you're in a group or you have backing or you're going to be, you're supported in some way. Man, we have to get to the value, the true value of being social, the true value of connection and the true value of who you are. And that starts first with who is face to face in front of you. This is one of those things that was so huge for me in the dating and seduction world, was that the highest value, the number one thing that we've always taught for years, pretty much the 11 years that I've taught, is that to be social is a gift. To have a connection with the person in front of you in any form, in any value, not by social value, not by what society says, but what you say, that is a spiritual experience. And not in a spiritual experience in the religious sense, but in one where it can change you. It can give you so many gifts of who you are, and it can change that other person and open you up to a whole nother world. And that's what it did for me. In any case, if you like these things, I want to stay consistent with them, opening my doors up to basically, share the message that I share. I've been a coach for 11 years. It's a passion of mine. I love it. I love working. I produce, we put up 2 podcasts a day, one for the Sexual Life podcast. If you're a man looking for dating and seduction, seriously, you can live a great social life, sexual life, and have great relationships because we've proven that as a result with our communities and groups. But we have a free podcast. We also have a free group, the Austin Men's Development Group. Join it, be a part of it. If you want to interact with us, you can do that too, man, at an awesome price, a very affordable level. This is what we do. This is what we're passionate about. We achieve great, consistent results. The second thing is, there's also Austin Men's Development itself. We have a podcast, The Daily Austin, that talks about men's development. I'd encourage you to participate on it, whether that's on YouTube, iTunes, or Stitcher. And man, don't be afraid to hit me up with whatever questions we have, because if I can't answer it, then somebody in my group can. We have a running dialogue that's lasted for over 7 years now of just men who have lived life, worked life, been where you're at, and that only happens from connection. So if you know me through the jiu-jitsu world, and you're like, man, I always wanted to see what Steve's groups are about, man, hit us up. It's actually how I got involved in jiu-jitsu. Scott Nelson, man. The beauty of wanting to hook up with ring girls, right? And hey, we got him that result. Anyway, so that being said, guys, I hope you're having a great day. Monday, Onion Creek. I love this place. This is one of my favorite places to meditate and do a meditation called Wu Chi Fa, which maybe I'll post some videos about that in the future. In any case, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get my nifty phone, check and see if we're still recording here, because it can get kind of crazy. Oh no. How long was it not on my face? Well, that sucks. Anyway, hopefully we were able to get some good footage there. And if not, well, we live and we learn. Talk to you guys soon.